So Metroid Other M. This was a weird thing that happened. Oh man, this is gonna be a long one. So I can't even remember when this thing came out. All I know is that everyone hated this game. Everyone. It was a mass of rage and toxicity out of nowhere, and everyone was talking about the game and all this and all that and blah 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 blah. Oh, how can you be so terrible? So hearing that and still being younger, I guess. I still consider myself a dumb person, so hopefully I'll grow out of that in a couple years. But being younger, I still would adhere to these. At least I wouldn't be so willing to jump into things. This was after I fell into the hype of which it was Nintendo Power. Nintendo Power basically did a preview review, which was so intellectually dishonest I couldn't even believe it. But basically, they praised the game. They praised what is the name of that game? It was so bad I didn't even finish it. Oh, Perfect Dark. Oh yeah, they praised the new Perfect Dark. No, not Perfect Dark. It wasn't Perfect Dark, but it was Alone in the Dark. That's what it was. They praised the new Alone in the Dark to no end in their preview review kind of thing. It was too much of an in-depth thing to be a preview, but it was a preview. And so I bought that. And I played it, and it was so, oh, I got problems. This is stupid. I didn't hate it as much as other people did, but it still was one of those things where it was definitely not worth me paying $60 for. So, this is after me. This is a couple years after that. So, I'm already at the point where I'm not willing to throw $60 down on anything anymore based on what anyone says. Like, if it's already an established series, I might do it, I might not. But frankly, I'm at the point where I'm skeptical of everything, and I've kind of grown a little off that, but I still am. Screw Nintendo Power. How dare you take my $60 like that? And then I buy it, and then the next issue comes out, and it's like, oh, this game's terrible. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Why? But whatever, that's what they do. That's their job. They mindlessly spew things out. That's what everyone does. They want to sell copies. They don't want to sell. They're not looking out for us. Oh. But, on to the more important notes. So, Metroid Other End comes out, and there was a lot of, murmuring. It was like a very, very low grumble coming out before the game actually comes out. People are talking about it. People are thinking about it. Blah, 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 blah. They're talking about the past, and people are even talking about the haircut, because the misogynistic aspect of the gaming community is a very, very large thing, and it's a very, very, very loud thing, and it's even worse when no one wants to stop it, because that's kind of what it is. People don't want to stop it, so it gets worse. So basically, a lot of negative things come out about that. Any video game that has a female in it has some very, very, very negative things coming about it because of the community, and that's just self-evident. If you just spend 10 seconds looking at it, female protagonist, you will find people will hate that game because there's a woman in it, or people will talk crap about that game because there's a woman in it. You will find lots and lots of examples of that. But whatever, murmuring comes out, talking about past, getting into behind of that, and they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff, and it's all this thing, and finally the game comes out, and everyone loses their mind. It's insane. I mean, it is literally insane the amount of hate this game got. A vast majority of people hated this game, and I do not know why they hated this game. We're gonna go over what they talked about. If you're listening to this, odds are you've listened to the other ones, maybe at least a short period of time, at least thrown it in the background while you were doing something else, like your taxes or something like that, which is good on you. You don't need to be focusing on this video because I just me sitting here talking for an hour. But everyone hates this game. It's seriously, everyone despises this game. Truly, it does something to them. It offends them in such a deep way that it's moving. If this was like a dictator, it would start a revolution. That's the level of hate this thing garnered. That's the level of betrayal this thing garnered. So I didn't buy it. I loved I love the Metroid series. I really do. I believe that the Metroid series was one of the best series ever produced. On all of them. The 2D ones, the 3D ones. I mean, the 3D ones get a little weird towards the end. At least, and basically being a little samey, kind of like what the modern gaming industry is now. But still good games. Blah, blah, blah. Don't need to be talking about that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Metroid Other Rim. So I avoided it like the plague. Everyone talked bad about it. Like, I'm not dropping $60 on a game that I might despise, you know? And everyone's talking crap about it. Everyone hates this game. Blah, 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 blah. So my friend gets it. And so, it was one of those days where we hang out. This is Jason. This is the one I'm always hanging out with, and the one I did a few LPs with, and I did a few more LPs with, but we ended up getting rid of the footage because it looks bad. It looked really bad. I don't have a very good computer. And I didn't have the good enough software for it at the time. Excuse me. So he gets the game, and I'm over at his house, and this is like he's just playing it beforehand. And he gets kind of stuck at the very first scanning mission. Like it was just because we'll get into the big problem. We'll get into what the people complained about. We'll get into the problems that the people talked about, and then we'll get into the actual problems of the game. Because frankly, there are legitimate criticisms of the game. I'm just saying everything that everyone talked about is 100% wrong, just absolutely wrong. Stupid people complaining about stupid things because they don't grasp what they don't like about it. This is Advent Children all over again. No, this is Advent Children. This is Final Fantasy Spirits Within all over again. You don't understand why you're mad, or you do understand why you're mad, and you're ashamed of why you're mad, so you invent these weird things that you're just going to nitpick at it, that when you look under an analytical approach, like if you put any kind of critical analysis onto what your argument is, it falls apart immediately. Alright, so he's stuck at these scanning things, which is one of the problems. Like, these scanning problems, like, I think that this is the worst problem of the game, these scanning bits, because not only is the Wiimote not very good, the Wii sensor thing, it's not good, like, it's an awful, awful thing. But not only is the new Wiimote not all that great, and doing the whole thing, but the fact is the scanning things are sometimes incredibly weird, incredibly, like, just... I don't know how to describe it. Like, I haven't played in a while, so that probably hurts it a bit too. But I don't know how to describe it because it's almost like it's like playing like a point-and-click adventure game where you have to like look around the map and scan things. Except for not only is it much more difficult to do so, like you have no idea what you need to look for. You're just scanning around. Like it doesn't tell you like look for a clue for this. I mean, it might even tell you look for a clue for this, but it's like the least common thing you could possibly think of. Like, you need to look for this bloodstain. One of the things, this thing took me at least 15 minutes to get, and I was kind of mad at myself too, but like, you have to look around all the way, and the bloodstain, you have to look for this bloodstain, and I'm looking up and I'm looking down, but I didn't know, but like, again, you don't know what the clue you have to look for. You know what you're supposed to look for, because this is after, the one monster, I think the monster kills one of the soldiers. I'm not sure. Crap, I'm going off on a tangent, I have to go back, but he kills one of the monsters, he kills one of the soldiers, and you have to look for a clue, and one of the clues is you have to look for the bloodstain. Well, the bloodstain's green, and it's on the ground, and the ground is grass, so it's green, so like, it mixes in and stuff, and it's a problem. Well, I'll try to get into that a little bit more later. But he gets stuck at that, and he's like, oh, I'm done, I don't want to play it anymore, you know? I don't think he didn't say anything like that, I'm just goofing. But he basically, after that scanning point, it's the very first one, it's right off the bat. Once he got done with that, he was basically, he was like, I'm done, I don't want to play this anymore. So what I did was, I borrowed the game from him. I'm like, it was at the point where I didn't have any new games that I really needed to play, you know? I hadn't bought any new games recently, you know? So, I was like, what problem is it? Like, what harm can I possibly do me? Like, waste a couple hours of my life? Waste 15 hours of my life, that's it? I mean, trust me, I've played a bunch of games where I've wasted a lot of time. Like, even games I like Disgaea, wow. 200 hours, man. Phantasy Star Online. 500 hours, man. You waste a lot of time playing some games. So I'm like, basically I was thinking like this, if I waste a couple hours of my life and it's a really terrible game, you know, whatever, no cost to me, didn't pay a penny out of the $60. So, I bought the game, take it home and play it, and it was awesome. Like, not even, like, a little bit, like, it wasn't even, like, it wasn't bad, but it was still pretty fun. No, it was great. I know I love the Metroid Prime series. I'm not Metroid Prime. All of Metroid. I love Metroid Prime though. Metroid Prime's so good, but I love it all. Super Metroid. I love all those games, even the Game Boy games, which are a bit on the iffy side on the control schemes. They could be more fluid, but whatever. I love Metroid series, and I played this, and it was great. It was another Metroid game. It was so much fun. Like it's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. It's this weird creative chimera of the Metroid series, because it's both 3D and 2D at the same time, where it functions more on a 2D plane, where weird 2D controls. Like you have to use the gamepad, like the four directional gamepad thing. Directional pad? I think it's called the directional pad. I haven't used the technical terms in years, so whatever. But you have to use the directional pad to move around, and you jump and you shoot, and it feels great to play this game. It has some awesome gameplay, and it's this it's the weird chimera where it's this 2D and 3D like smashed together, and it works so well. I've never played a game that everyone has hated this much, and I came out loving it this much. Never have I ever played a game like this. It's to the point where I'm going to get into the argument, I'm sorry, but it is to the point where I actually say that if you do not like this game, you are objectively wrong. You are completely, scientifically, provably wrong to say this game is bad. To say this game is not as good as I'm saying it, that's a fair value. But to say it's bad is an incorrect value, and I'm going to get into this later. But, because it's mostly due with Samus's characterization in the game. But I'm telling you, this game has some of the best controls. Like, if you're on the fence, and you're listening to this, go buy it right now. Go buy that game. It is worth every penny it costs, which it's got to be down to $30 now, which is cheap. It's a great game. It's a massively fun game. But that aside, I played it and had a lot of fun with it. The controls are really good. There are some aspects of it where they don't, like, at one point I was trying to get something, like you have to do something. Basically in this game you can grab onto ledges, but I don't think it ever actually quite tells you that. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm just dumb or something like that. But I think the one place that, because like there's a tutorial level where you have to do everything and it shows you how to play the game, and like basically you get back from this place and we're just gonna test out your suit real quick. Make sure you're working in full speed before we let you go, blah, blah, blah. And I think there's a point where you're supposed to grab onto it teaches you to grab on the ledge, but at the same time, if you push the jump button, you just jump completely out of the dip, like out of the pit. Like it's like a little in-ground pit that's like 7 feet deep or something like that. And I think that's where you're supposed to learn to jump, and you can grab a ledge and lift yourself up. But you can just jump right over that. Like you could just jump over it and boom. So I think that's where that came from. And then there's a part where like you have to actually grab, like this is a very, very small area where I'm trying to jump in and then turn into a ball and like kind of bomb my way into there. Like I'm trying the hardcore stuff that we used to do back in the old school games, and even in Metroid Prime too. And what it happens is all you have to do is flip into the ball. All you have to do is grab onto the ledge, and you can do it easy, and it's really easy. And like, oh man, like there's something like that where they don't tell you some things, but at the same time, the gameplay's awesome. I don't remember a game that I liked better in recent years. Or at least the gameplay aspect. Like maybe, and well, this will be another video, Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6's gameplay is incredibly awesome, and we'll talk about that. That'll be, if not the next episode, an episode after that. But it's, like, I couldn't, like, there's nothing bad to really say about the gameplay. The only bad thing you have is the first-person view mode scanning stuff. Like, the scanning stuff, that's terrible. The missile stuff, that's dumb. That's horrible, but that's not Metroid's fault. I guess technically they could have easily... Yeah, maybe. Well, if they could have put the first-person mode and you just, whenever the control pad would control it, they could have done that too. But that's a majority. That's mainly a Wii problem. That's not a game developer's fault completely. It's more of a, hey, the Wii has Wii Motion, might as well use it. Yeah, so that kind of dumb in that regard, but whatever. Alright, but the gameplay is fun. The gameplay is really great. The camera angles may take a little to get used to, but are awesome. Because it's really reminiscent of the old school ones. Like, if you like Super Metroid, you're going to love this game. The bosses are great. All the stuff is great. It is so much fun playing through this game. Collecting stuff's kind of stupid, but then again, I mean, it's not as good as the old ones, but it ain't bad though. Basically, it suffers from more of the modern day design things, but at the same time, it's still reminiscent of the old days. So it's weird. Like I said, it's like this weird mesh of all the cool stuff for Metroid with a few bad things implemented from modern game design, and it's just really that's really what it is. Like the worst parts about this game come from the modern game design aspects of it. Whatever. Done gushing. Super fun game. You really, really, really ought to buy it if you haven't got it yet. I probably should buy it too, but at the same time, sometimes when I borrow games and stuff, it feels like I don't have a whole lot of money. I think it's pretty obvious. So like, hey, I can't even afford. Actually, I could afford a pop filter. I just haven't bought one. But like, why would I get a pop filter? I get like 12 views per video, you know. But yeah, I don't have a pop filter for my mic. It's like $20 for a pop filter, and it's like the most important aspect of this. It really does clear up the audio a lot. It fixes the audio a lot too. It's like the least expensive thing that you could buy that benefits your quality the most. It's so stupid, but I don't have a whole lot of money, so basically I kind of have to pick and choose. Like Steam games, I buy a lot of Steam games on sale because, you know, it's on sale, and if it is bad, you know, at least I'm out a little bit of money instead of a lot of money. So basically, I pick and choose my games hardcore. There are a lot of games where I'm not going to buy that one, I don't have the money for it, but I'm going to buy this game that's coming out next week or something like that. So I pick and choose really, really hard. So that's why I haven't bought this game. But if you've been sitting on the edge and you've wanted to know and you want an honest opinion, and I hate to say this, but I believe myself to be one of the most honest people on YouTube, one of the most honest people in game journalism and game criticism and game reviewing of all. Like, I don't even believe myself to be that. I'm not that good at this job. I really am not. I'm pretty lazy at it. But I know I'm one of the most honest because from what I've seen from everyone else, they tend to fall into the idea. They tend to fall into the automatic idea, and they tend to be swayed by the masses. Well, for obvious reasons, because, you know, if you put up opinions that are against the masses, generally you don't get as many views. So people tend to be intellectually dishonest in that matter. Even people I respect and I love, you know, Yahtzee, Jimquisition, Jim Sterling. It's just Jim Sterling. It's not Jimquisition. The name of the show is Jimquisition. Jim Sterling, especially Angry Joe. All these people, they do sway with the audiences. And at least Angry Joe, you can kind of trust him a bit more because he'd be willing to get angry at things in the appropriate manner that he does. But he still is a massive fanboy, so you got to kind of watch out for that because he'll like some things and he'll dislike some things that you know that you can't trust him on it. But yeah, if you're going to take it from anyone, you got to take it from me. I know I'm at the very least in some of these more extreme instances, what I've talked about already, I have zero bias against them. I have nothing going against. There's no reason for me to care. I don't care. I only judge a product by the product itself. I don't care about any of that crap. I'm willing to stake everyone. If I have 0 views, if no one watches me, which technically no one does, I do not care about that. Because I'm here. Well, this is for me. I'm really doing all this for me. I'm having fun, and I'm enjoying expressing my opinions on these things. And I'm not doing it for anyone else's benefit. I'm here trying to do my best, or at least the best I can, with the effort that I'm willing to put into it, to express my opinions about these certain things. And that's why you can trust me about this. There's no reason for me to like or hate this game. Really, I didn't pay for it. There's no reason for me to get upset because of that. I have no ties to any industry. I know I believe that most gamers are pretty stupid, but that's not because of... Well, that's not even most game... if you take the humanity as a whole, it's pretty stupid. So when you break it off into just the gamers, of course, a majority of them are going to be pretty stupid because the whole is pretty stupid. Like, I have no bias against any of these things. I don't really care. Like, you know, whether I like the game or not should be whether I like the game or not. You know, like I said, we're going to get into it. I'm going to talk about the points that the game, like the community has brought up that is completely wrong, and I'll bring up some more of the actually appropriately wrong things. But if you have the money and you were on the fence about this and you don't know and you never you hear a bunch of people talk about it, but you never heard anyone talk about it in a very critical sense. There's very few people talk about it in a very critical sense. I've watched a lot of reviews about this game. Not a lot, but about 10 of them. I guess that's kind of a lot. Because I like Metroid, and all of them, all of them brought some of the same points that everyone else brings up, and most of them come off pandering. Pandering is a good word, but whatever. Pick up the game. It's worth it. It's really worth it, especially if it's like $30 now. It'll be worth it. So worth it. So, some of the arguments that these guys have, hopefully I'm not strawmanning, but it's been a while since I've heard these arguments because the game hasn't been in, circulation for a long time. Like, people haven't been talking about it all that often. The last time I heard anything about it was at Awesome Games Done Quick, or no, Summer Games Done Quick, which just happened back in June. Summer Games Done Quick. If you don't know, they speedrun games. And for all the good that they do, they're still terrible, terrible douchebags who hurt gaming in general. Which that's kind of like when you have these fake opinions, when you have all these fake opinions that really don't come from a mass. Basically, it's more like you're getting it from the consciousness, like the subconsciousness, like you're just grabbing ideas from subconscious, but really not. It's more of a parasite kind of infecting everyone, and then everyone's spewing the same things. But when you have those same opinions, it hurts gaming in general. Like, it hurts gaming as an art form, because when people look at the art form and they look at the criticism and they look at the when they look at the intellectual aspects that are surrounding the thinking about video games, that's how they value it as an art form. Like, you don't see this in any other form. Like, even in movies and stuff, you don't see this. It's a much more respected thing. In gaming, it's not respected at all. Mostly due to the game journalists being, basically the company's, lapdogs. And the rest of it's because of the gamers doing this. Calling this game bad for reasons that it's not bad. But yeah, I can't remember what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Yeah, but it does hurt the art form. It makes video games look less of an art. Like, this is more of a stupid pastime. This has nothing to do with, there's no art in it, really, to outsiders, and they're justified in having that opinion, really. Of course, I would disagree, but unless you're a gamer inside looking at the art form and then looking out at other art forms, because I'm attached to quite a few art forms in this regard, you can tell. Like, I know for a fact that's how people see it, because it's pretty. I've had conversations about this, and they're justified in their opinions and thinking that it's not art, because frankly, if you look at the intellectual aspect, it is not art. Like, what I'm saying right now, this stupid rambling that has. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling. I have no clue what I'm going to say next. This is probably the most and the highest level elevated of intellectual discussion that has ever been formed on Metroid Other M. Maybe not. Maybe there's a bunch of guys out there like me who are saying the same thing and they're doing it better than me. Either way, from what I know and from what I've dug into, this is going to be the best in the intellectual discussion of Metroid Other M. And that is a sad notion. And because of that, video games aren't art. Like, I hate to say that, because it's not true. Video games are art, and even high art nonetheless. But the ultimate problem that comes from it is the fact that it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what gamers think. It matters what everyone else thinks. Until it's a universally recognized thing, it's not art. And guess what? It can't be universally recognized because of us. Okay, whatever. Get back there. Yeah, because of the rambling and stuff, we don't do so well. Couple things brought up. Some of the main things. One of the biggest things ever talked about, which is called the ultimate betrayal, is when Samus basically breaks down, and she has this weird, hopefully no straw man, but frankly I gotta take this from like 500 different people, so of course I'm gonna be generalizing it. Several things. First off is Samus breaking down when it comes to when Ridley forms again. I don't like, somehow it keeps like a parasite jumping from one being to the next until it can regrow into itself. I don't know how it does it, but basically essentially Ridley comes back and Samus panics about it. Another thing is the fact that the idea is that Samus mindlessly adheres to whatever the general is. I don't even know what his name is, but the guy leading the other squad from the military that she used to be a part of. She used to be in his unit, and she mindlessly whatchamacallit, like follow his plans, even though they quote unquote have characterized her to do otherwise. And like one of the things they've talked about is when she runs into fire, like she goes into the lava area and she doesn't put her suit on until he tells her. We'll talk about it later, right? Another thing is one of the biggest things they talked about is the fact that it's monotone. Like when she does her voice acting, it's incredibly monotone. And that again, that's very much a justifiable point. It actually is a good point. She doesn't do a good job. Well, it's not that she does a bad job. It's just a poor characterization, at least to most of us, and I would agree with that. A poor characterization of Samus, that she'd be. And then I woke up the next day, and but it's not that bad. But everyone claims that is bad. But whatever they want to. Of course, reviews are generally about hyperbole, because that's what they do. It's about sensationalizing stuff. It's not about actually intellectually discussing things. But whatever. Very first thing, Samus panics when Ridley comes back. This is one of the things that absolutely turned me off. This is like the one time. The one thing that I heard this. When I heard this, I was like, I immediately knew. Like, this is the starting point of all of this. When I start to think of gamers as my enemy and not my ally. Not like, hey, fellow patriots, fellow consumers, whatever we would call ourselves, fellow gamers. This is the moment I started doing that, because it's retarded. Okay, so many points to go over. We'll start at the beginning. I know there is a timeline, but in the Metroid series, the timeline doesn't matter. It is the most pointless thing ever, and the only time the timeline even comes into consideration is when you look at all the logs. All of the logs that you find at the side read. A lot of gamers don't read those. I did. I love them. A lot of gamers don't read those. Okay? Just heads up there. So the timeline doesn't matter. But the point of this whole game is the fact that it's supposed to be a direct sequel to Super Metroid. It's supposed to be what happens directly after Super Metroid. Remember that. So the whole point of the characterization in this game, the reason why she's at more of a... The whole point of that, she's supposed to be more of a weakened kind of thing. I guess it's not weakened, but more of a, she has, motherly hurt, I guess would be a proper thing to say. It's the fact that this creature that she kind of had with her throughout all of Metroid 2 sacrifices itself in order to save her life, and that affects her deeply. It's supposed to affect her deeply, okay? And then when she first sees Ridley, the whole point of the fact is, it's like in this, and the point of the whole game is that Ridley, this weird parasite and all these different creatures, has been kind of following her and stalking her a bit. The whole point of her panicking at that point is the fact that it's supposed to be her, basically saying that the sacrifice that her, kind of like a child thing had for her, at least in a very attached thing to her, didn't come. Basically it was for naught, because the sacrifice, because she didn't actually defeat all that stuff and make it through and survive, that thing is still attacking her now. And you might be saying, blah, blah, blah. Again, calm down. The ultimate thing that comes down to this is the fact that it's supposed to be a direct sequel. The timeline doesn't matter. It's supposed to be a direct sequel. The timeline literally does not matter. Even if being a sequel doesn't matter, but even this being a sequel, it should be judged purely on what it is. But the fact that it is stated as a sequel, and that is just the characterization it's trying to get across. Now, you can value that, whether that's good or bad. That's for you to decide. But you cannot talk about this how it is completely out of character for it, because technically it is not. It is, and again, she is not weak. She is not crying. She's not pathetic. She's not going crazy. She's not doing anything sexist. She's not being some kind of sexist or misogynistic stereotype. None of that. She just panics for a little bit. Essentially, that's what it breaks down to. She just panics for just a little bit. And oh no, everyone talks about it. And this is what it ultimately brings, because it's me thinking about why these people had me come to that conclusion. Because that's what they're trying to get across. You can say whether they did a bad or good job about that, fine, but that's what they were trying to get across. What makes what they said completely wrong about her panicking is the fact that her panicking lasts for 5 seconds. I mean, yes, she has killed Ridley. And this is the argument I get a bunch. Yes, she has killed Ridley 25 times by now. But the whole thing is the fact that you think you killed something, and then it just comes back, and you're like, oh no, like no matter what you are, like no matter how, like if you think you murdered something, it still surprises you for a little bit, and like she doesn't even panic. She just sits there and goes, what's going on? How is he alive again? Like and the fact that the characterization doesn't come off as like as bad as what everyone says it is. It really, really, really doesn't. Like she is not in like this much panic. She's not like crying again. There's two things. Yeah, it's not that bad. It really isn't. She's like, oh no, what's going on? Which she should probably say that a few more times, because like what happens in this game, like what happens in the Metroid series is kind of crazy. Like she's a bounty hunter, but she's destroying godlike and deity figures and all this kind of crazy stuff, and like destroying this race that has been genetically modified to murder everyone and all blah 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 blah. Like she does a lot of things, like save the entire galaxy at points. Like crazy, like she should probably be freaking out a few more times than she is, but whatever, you know. I'm a strong woman. But whatever, that is relevant. The thing that really bothers me is that it's not, because people talk about the intensity too, which is wrong, but the fact that it's the time frame, it's like 7 seconds. It takes no time. Like what happens is Ridley shows up, it like knocks the black guy into the lava or whatever. Like I can't even remember how it does it, but it's like it like does something to the black guy. The black guy goes falling off. Oh, cold train! Like he goes flying off. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Now I'm gonna kill you," and then you fight and kill Ridley. The timing of it is so short and so insignificant, it should not have registered. It literally should not have registered. At the very least, it should not be the defining argument against the game. It's essentially, yeah, some guys will not bat an eye when you point a gun at them, but the average human being, even if they don't show it, is going to panic a little bit. And they're going to be some people, when they get a gun pointed at them, get their wallet stolen or their purse stolen from them, they cry. They sit in a shower and cry for hours. Okay? Panicking to somewhat distressing situations is kind of normal for people. Like, not all of us can be like balls to the wall hard men. We can't be Duke Nukem forever. Oh, I bet he ain't gonna be in the sequel. It's like, oh, he ain't gonna be Rush Hour 3. You know, all this kind of stupid crap. Like, we're all not gigantic, massive men and powerful women that can take on everything, okay? But it's like, how much she panics is like, it's not only, it's actually far more reasonable that she'd panic just a little bit like that. It would make sense that she would panic that little bit. Like, to see, like, she probably should have panicked even a little more, in my opinion. But, at the same time, like, it's not even panic, it's more like, oh, it's like a surprise. It's like a little bit of shock. But it's the fact that it's like, it's so reasonable how much she panics. That's the thing that blows my mind. It's like 10 seconds before it's done. That, like, when I have to wait longer to microwave up some nasty food, like, if I just sit there like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, the amount of panic this woman does before and after this whole thing is insanely short. Basically, she just murders Ridley again. That's it. That's the whole cutscene is. It's almost like he knocks the black guy off. She goes, oh no, the black guy, and then she kills Ridley. That's the thing. You gotta see it for yourself. You have to play through the entire game yourself in order to get it too, because it makes no sense. Like, I guarantee you, if you are a rational human being that is not within this gamer like meta mind, you know, like the hive mind that gamers tend would like. I'm telling you, I will put up a video. I'm going to put up a video eventually where I talk about the hive mind of the video gamer, because like many of the arguments I had, especially against Final Fantasy Spirits Within, it's a hive mind thing. It is most certainly a hive mind thing. They don't say anything different. They don't say anything new. They all say the same things, and it's stupid. Like, why do you have a hive mind about this? Why do you not have a personal opinion? Like, it's not, I don't even have a personal opinion because I think I'm an intellectual and I think I need to have a personal, I have a personal opinion because I watch stuff. Like, how hard can you do that? Like, I watch something. When I watch one of the movies on my shelves, I don't go, what does other people think about this? I better make sure it's alright. I say, this is my opinion because I watched it. Like, I don't care. Like, you want to know something? I watch My Little Pony. If you were following my videos, you would see that. I don't like it that much, but you know what? At the very least, I used to like it a lot, but I watch it. You know what I care? I don't care at all. What do you think? If you think I'm less of my opinion because of that, well, I'm sorry, but that makes you stupid. It's a dumb TV show. If you watch dumb TV shows, that's what it is. You watch The Walking Dead, you're stupid. Why? Because you watch The Walking Dead. Guess what? My opinion doesn't matter because it's your show you're watching. Do you enjoy watching it? If you don't enjoy watching the show and you're watching it anyways because everyone else watches it, then you're a retard. If you like the show that you're watching, there's nothing wrong with that because you like the show that you're watching. That's the entire point of entertainment. Unless you're someone sick like me who needs to talk about stuff in an intellectual manner that's both good and bad. You know, sometimes I watch crap I don't like. Sometimes I watch stuff and play stuff I don't like, but I kind of do it for, professional reasons. I want to be a better video game developer. So I got to know what's bad in order to know not to do that, But if it's entertainment, it's entertainment, That's the thing, it's a hive mind thing. You have to play the game. You have to play, because you'll hit that moment and you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about? I blinked and I missed half of it. I literally blinked and I missed half of it. It's insane. It's insane how short this was. It's insane how little, like I was expecting something very dramatic to happen the way people talked about it, but it's when people dramatize things so much and sensationalize things so much that everything becomes a stupid joke. It's something more than hyperbole. It's something more than exaggeration. I don't even know what it is. Like, what word would work for that? Like, outright lying? I mean, technically that's what it is. You are outright lying, but that's not what they're doing. They're not lying. They're not purposely lying, but they're just exaggerating something to a point where it becomes greater than the word exaggeration. I don't know what to say. I mean, define a new word. Make a new word. I don't know. I was going to say something offensive to the gamers, but I can't think of anything properly, so whatever. Yeah. Boom. Point. Of course, I have counter arguments against that, and I kind of presented some of them to you. But the whole point I was trying to get around is, even if you believe in the argument, which technically they have some like line of logic there. It's just a very thin line that can be it's like a spider web thin, where you don't even notice, you break through it, and you're just like, oh no, what was that? And you're padding around, and you just can't feel it anymore because it's gone. Spider web's gone. You already broke it, destroyed it. They have some line of assembly based on their arguments. It does make sense, but at the same time, contextualized, it makes no sense, and contextualized, it has no effect. Like zero, it's almost non-existent. Other point. Oh, crap, what was I talking about? Alright, I guess while I'm trying to think of the other thing, we'll talk about the other thing. The monotone talking. The monotone narrations of Samus. Adding the narration of Samus could potentially be a bad thing. Very much so. Having her be monotone is also a problem. Because it's basically, what they were kind of going for was her being stern, When your dad's stern, or when your mom's stern to you, they're not emotional, they're not yelling at you. Well, generally, if they are, they're being stern and something else. But they're not, that's the whole point of it. Is she's supposed to be very, very, very stern. I think that's what they're trying to get across. But they could have done it in a lot of better ways. So definitely a point in their favor when they talk about the narration aspects. Because it's very underacted, underperformed. It's not poorly acted, it's just not acted in the correct manner in which it ought to have been. And it is very, very, very bothersome to sit through at times, depending on your capacity for this kind of thing. I can sit through a lot of this. Because this isn't bad. No, you have to actually sit through the bad stuff. You have to find, I have examples. I can pull DVDs off my shelf, and I guarantee you'll have a harder time sitting through than that. Because monotone is not half as bad as, what is that? Nails on chalkboard bad. Horrible bad. Smashing glass bottles over it and just clawing the crap out of that stuff onto the chalkboard. No, that, I've got a couple over there. I've got movies and DVDs and TV shows and video games where the music design and the music design and the background sound effects and everything's bad, horrible on it. So it's very, very hard to sit through. This is not one of them, but at the same time, it is a point of not quality. It is a point of badness, if you will. So they do have some justification in. They have, oh yeah, I remember. I finally remembered what it was because I just said it. Yay! It's about her losing her items. But there is some justification in saying that it is not good. But there is two distinct arguments you can. Oh, two distinct things. Oh, here. Before this, if the effort you have to do, like here's a philosophy that I have, and I believe that. I mean, people are gonna go against me. I shouldn't have to do this. I'm like, yeah, sure, but what you're doing is you're taking your money and you're burning it, and then you're blaming them, really. But if what you can do to fix something is so minuscule and so almost not time-consuming for you, and basically, if the effort you can put into it dramatically increases the quality of a game, or the quality of the game or a movie or anything like that, it is your duty to do it. You might, of course, you can sit there and say about, no, man, the game should be good. I shouldn't have to do any work at all. Like, when you're arguing about like books, kind of, when you're arguing about novels, when you're arguing about comic books, when you're arguing about TV, that argument can be validated. But when arguing about video games, where you are literally doing all of the work, essentially, you are the interactive aspect of it. You are the one controlling things. Of course, you don't control. You do walk through set pieces. You do things. There are cutscenes, but at the same time, you do control a lot of work. So you ought to be able to put a little bit more work in for it and make something enjoyable. There are two very simple things you can do, and I'm pretty sure the one is I don't, like I said, I don't have the game on me, so I couldn't go check it before I started this, but I'm almost certain you could change the audio to Japanese. There's a video going to be coming up where I talk about subs versus dubs and the Jafar series. I'll make this point pretty clear. Almost everyone who only listens to Japanese to Japanese dubs, do it for very, very, very stupid and horribly intellectual reasons, or for very petty reasons. But like I said, I'll go into that in much, much greater detail later. People oftentimes will say that they can't tell the difference between the Japanese, in between a good Japanese dub and a bad Japanese dub. That's retarded. That is retarded. Completely bad. That is completely stupid. If you can't tell the difference between a Japanese dub and an English, a good dub and a bad Japanese dub, you should not have been watching anime for very long. It shouldn't take you more than a year of watching anime and actually getting good and bad dubs, which aren't hard to find, in order to actually be able to decipher these. It should be a very easy thing for you to do. It should be incredibly easy for you to pick out that. Because I can tell. It's pretty easy. I don't speak Japanese. I can't, well, I can read Japanese a little bit better than I can speak, and I can't speak it that well, and I can't read it that well neither, but I can read fairly well. Like, a little below kindergarten. Like, not quite kindergarten level. But either way, that's the thing is, majority of people who complain about the voice narration would instantly be turned over to the whole turning it to Japanese. So there just goes, like, that's my point. Like, I know you like, I shouldn't have to do it to Japanese. True, but it's something you can do that takes almost no time out of your day. Like, no time out of your gameplay. Like, 7 seconds. Bloop, 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 bloop. Oh, I'm done. In order to change to the Japanese. And you will like it. I mean, odds are you'll like it. If you're listening to this, odds are you're probably not a stupid person. You listen to my... If you're constantly on my channel, you tend to think a bit more about your medium, so maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it's still bad. But either way, at least the argument goes out where it's like, at least it should be better. Frankly, I don't know. I didn't check it out myself, but it probably is. The Japanese dub is probably better. Just because of the fact that it probably wouldn't be as monotone. Because even monotone in Japanese is kind of not as monotone in English. I mean, they can be. Oh, they can. Japanese dubs can be certainly monotone, but they normally aren't. Then they normally go to more extremes than English dubs. But whatever. The other thing you can do, which is what I did, which made me enjoy this game even more, which was just have fun with the narration. I knew it was coming. Like, if you played this game, unless you played, like, no, you couldn't have played this game unless you're a reviewer. You couldn't have played this game without knowing that the audio narration was bad. Like, unless you just bought the game without looking at any reviews, which, I mean, I guess could happen, because I've done that before. I'm like, I don't want this ruined at all for me. But unless you were one of those people, you knew this narration was bad, because everyone talked about it. Like I said, it was one of the big three. She panics. Oh, her getting told what the general would do is such terribleness, and the audio narration is bad. The three, the three big things that everyone talked about. So, going into it, I knew how bad it was going to be. So what I did was, I gave her a thick, male, Hispanic accent. I don't know, Hispanic? Yeah, Hispanic. We'll go. Latino is probably a bit better, but a bit more politically correct, but I don't care about that. You should not care about that. If you're on this channel, you shouldn't care about political correctness. You're supposed to be smarter than that. You probably are smarter than that. This is something that is beyond... This is something that is, like, beyond easy to do for you. I mean, maybe it's hard. I don't know. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have jumped that, but I found it to be quite easy. And you know what it did? It made the game infinitely more enjoyable than I thought it could have. I would just laugh all the time. It was the funny... Whenever she would just sit there and narrate, it was the funniest thing I've ever listened to. Because I gave her that accent. It wasn't even like she was a female. Like, I didn't give her a female. I gave her a male one. It was great. In my head, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Of course, but... It was funny, it was good, and it took little effort at least on my part. Maybe it would take more effort on your part, but it took so little effort on my part, and that's the whole point. Like, if it takes just a little bit of effort on your part to make a game that much better, well, then you should do it. You really should do it, because the whole point of it is you're supposed to get entertainment out of video games. Now, like I've said, we're not justifying horrible writing. We're not justifying horrible writing. We're not turning our brains off. We're turning our brains on. Like, there's a difference between... There's a difference between sitting here and smashing your head with a rock until you think a game's narrative is funny, or you think this gameplay works, or anything like that. But for the most part, like, it's a little bit of work, which is just giving her that accent, just giving her that different voice made it worth sitting through. I had no problem sitting through any of the narrations in this game, because after the first one, I was like, wow, I need to do something to fix that, and I did. I did fix it. Well, of course it takes some of the narrative away, but at the same time, it made the game more enjoyable. And that's all that it's supposed to be. If you can't make the game more enjoyable for yourself, and with that little effort, then yes, there's a problem with the game. But at this point, it's a problem with you. I mean, yes, if you wanted to critically analyze, if you wanted to actually be a professional intellectual reviewer, saying that the narration is bad is an ultimate thing you would have to do. Like I have said. Sat here and said that the narration is, in fact, bad. But the ultimate thing that comes out of this, the ultimate flip, is the fact that because of that, because I've stated that I've already done my intellectual side of the reviewing, but do I enjoy it? But does it hurt my enjoyment of the game at all? Well, no, it doesn't hurt my enjoyment of the game, though. It is a technical flaw. It is a flaw that a lot of people have, and it is on the objective side of things, because, frankly, it's not the correct portrayal that they should have taken with the character. But your enjoyment of the game should be more important than the intellectual aspects of the game at the end of the line. So, when you do the whole, I made her into a Mexican, I made her into seriously, sombrero wearing, thick drinking, stereotypical Mexican, I'm having fun. I'm laughing at how funny this is because it's stupid, and I made it stupid, but it's funny. I made it stupid because it's super funny. And I made it stupid, so making it really, really funny. And because of that, it's quite enjoyable. That's a little bit of effort to make the game so much better. And even without that, even without that, even without changing the narration, it still should not affect the game that much. Like, we're talking about people absolutely hating this game for those 3 reasons, and those 2 other reasons could, like, if you're not thinking about it, that would be enough to hate the game. This is not enough to hate the game, even if you thought the narration's bad, even if you're not going to give her, you know, stereotypical accents or making her some kind of stupid thing, making it funny. Like reading every line like she's crying or something. Like that kind of stuff is funny. Like doing like making her narrations into a joke is the proper way to go, I believe. But like I said, it does not hurt the value of the game overall. It's like dropping it a point or a half a point or something like that out of a 10-point scale. That's the reason why I believe that it doesn't matter. But it's a bit over justified, I would say. It's a bit too harsh on the whole yelling at people for things. Blaming the game. Bad aspects of the game shouldn't be valued that this bad aspect of the game should not be valued that heavily. Man, I lost track pretty hard. Okay, other thing. This is probably the more important thing. This is the thing that kind of decharacterized her a little bit more than even her panicking when she sees Redley. Basically, at the beginning of the game, you go to this random space station and you gotta do some stuff to the space station. You go to the random space station, and when you get to the space station, you basically find out that your old captain's there and with a squad of men, and they're there to do, the other, like, they're sent on a mission to save the space station. You're kind of sent on a mission to save the space station, which whatever. So get there, and he's like, you better follow my lead, and I don't want you doing anything without my approval, and all that blah blah blah. And she says yes. And like, this is where a bunch of people get really, really mad, because they're like, Samus wouldn't do that. Samus wouldn't play stupid. Samus wouldn't do all that kind of stuff. She defied, like basically, and I can't quite remember which one it is because all the games kind of blend together now, especially when I'm trying to sit here and articulate thoughts that have not been articulated ever before. But I think it was Metroid Fusion. If not, it was Metroid. It was the ending of Metroid First. It was like that weird ending thing to Metroid First Mission. Yeah, it was like the remake of the first game on Game Boy Advance, where there's an ending on it. Basically, I think what happened was the military, the Federation, wanted to keep this Metroid thing, like this Metroid research station, alive, so that way they can get the data and test it and stuff like that. But Samus, she said, no, we shouldn't do that. It's going to cause problems. This could destroy a lot of stuff. This could cost us a lot. So she went and destroyed it anyway, disagreeing with orders. And then because of that, or at least that's one of the justifications for not liking the game, they basically say that this is kind of the same thing. Like, she would not follow orders, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. The game presents it in an infinitely different way. In a pretty easy way to understand, not like a character ruining way. She still has respect for, in the game at least, she still has respect for her former leader. This is like the leader she grew up under. Like, her entire military career was underneath this guy, and then she became a bounty hunter, and she still respects this guy. So she's not. It's not because of she's like, I'm going to be subservient and I'm going to let him bully me and push me around. It comes off as far more of an innocent and far more of just a nostalgic kind of feel, where it's like, all right, Commander, like, it's more like she's happy to see him. She doesn't want to. She's happy to see him. She doesn't want to, fight him. She doesn't want to get in arguments with him. She just wants to help. And she doesn't want to get in the way. She's just there, she's just helping, she's not trying to cause stuff, and it's not because she wants to be a dog, it's because she respects the man, and because she respects the man, she doesn't want to fight with the man, which inevitably she does all the work anyway, so it doesn't even come off like that. So she like basically show up, and I think you fire a rocket, and he's like, "Hey, I don't want you doing. I don't want you messing." Basically, it's him trying to hold control and trying to keep control of himself. And she's like, "All right, fine, whatever. I'll play by the rules. You know, I'm slick. You know, I can do whatever I'm slick. I can do whatever I want. But you know what? I'm cool." And people brought up the fact that like, it comes off like kind of misogynistic, maybe even in some ways. Like she wants to be subservient to this guy and all this stuff, but it really doesn't. It really does not seem that way, though. Like the whole time I'm playing this, I'm not thinking, "Oh," the way she says, she's like, the way she even talks about him, she's like even like right after he tells him not to ever use your missiles ever again, like you're not going to use anything without my permission. It always comes off as, she's just willing, she's just happy to see the guy. She respects him, and so she respects his leadership in this authority. And she's like, "No, let him do it, man. They've got a bunch of guys. I'm gonna do my part anyway. I'm here to do my part anyways. Whether I do it without him or not doesn't change anything. And technically, it really doesn't. They all die basically. They all get horribly murdered. And so, basically, it all boils down to like it really does seem. I mean, of course, you can interpret it in so many different ways. But I'm pretty sure how would you say that? How it's supposed to be interpreted is the fact that she just merely respects his authority, and she's willing to, you know, fall in line in order to keep things smooth and going smoothly. You know, she's willing to toe the line. You know, she's not going. That's probably not correct, but she's not going to just go, "Oh, F you, F you." She's not. She doesn't hate authority. I think that's pretty clear in all the games. She does not despise authority, but when she needs to take initiative, she's going to take initiative. She does that in this game. She does that in all the other games. And like basically, she was on a military mission and given orders in order to do things in the mission where she had to blow up. When she inevitably said, "No, I'm not going to follow your rules. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm blowing this thing up because it's for the good of the galaxy." But even then, she was still following orders, getting to that place. That's where this whole thing can, like, people are taking this in the completely wrong way. They're like, "Oh, she's being submissive and she'd never do that." No, she's just following an order, which she used to do all the time, which she still kind of does, even as a bounty hunter, which makes no sense. If you're going to be talking about this, if you're going to find problems with these things, then you need to find problems with it in the entire series, not just in Other M. That's the thing I hate with this thing, is if you have a problem with the game, you discuss the problems you have with the game. You do not bring up stupid crap and then hope that I don't figure out why it's stupid. Yeah, so basically, one of the big things, and that's just a small minor point, the whole missile thing. So basically, it's just a gimmick. Like, if you want to talk about it, if you want to claim it as a bad idea, you really can. But you can't claim it as a character development bad idea. You truly can't, because it comes off stupid, and I already kind of explained why. It really does not seem like she wants to be his whipping boy, you know? It does not seem that she wants to be, used and misused and all that stuff. It really does come off as, "Hey, I'm just playing nice here. Doesn't matter. I'll use it whenever I need to use it." So, the one thing that everyone started complaining about, the one thing everyone did actually get into and had problems with, was when she, basically she was running around in a fire stage. And, like, there was this thing, I can't remember what happened, but, like, she was getting chased by something. Like, it was a boss at the fire stage. And everyone was talking about, "Oh, look at this. Oh, I'm catching on fire. I'm running on." I think even Yahtzee brought this up. But I'm on fire, I'm running around on fire, oh no. And like, basically, because like when, if she doesn't have the Varia suit or whatever it's called, she takes damage from heat. Too much heat, she gets damage, Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. And like the whole point of the gimmick here, which like I probably should have finished talking about this, I forgot about it. The whole point of the gimmick here is the fact that, like, if you wanted to point out that there's a problem with it, then it's a problem with the gimmick. And a gimmick that's in a lot of the games. It's the fact that, for some reason, Metroid loses all of her abilities. Like, Metroid. Samus loses all of her abilities. Metroid Prime, she basically gets hit with an explosion and she loses all of her abilities. Doesn't make any sense. Her armors go flying all over the place. Her grappling hook goes flying all over the place. Lands in some other weird somehow goes through space and lands somewhere on that planet. All this stupid, like, it's just stupid. If you think about it, it is really, 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 really dumb. But it's been a problem in a lot of the games. Of course, older games tend to not have that problem because they tend to not have an established continuity behind them. But she has all these abilities, so she's got to lose them somehow, because that's the point of the game. That's how this is bad. That's how basically, this is just a justification for that. This is the same thing as an explosion knocking all of Samus's crap off of her for some reason. So, instead of the explosion, she now has this commander that says you can't use any of his powers until I say so. So you have all the same powers, you have all the same abilities, all the same missiles and stuff, you just can't use them yet. Same thing. The only difference is that now she's under some fake authority that she's following because, again, she just wants to, she's trying to play nice here. And that's it. Okay, that's the only time you can basically call this out as bad. Again, kind of cementing that while I'm messing up all my thoughts here. Okay, the fire thing happens. She's being chased by this giant thing, and you're taking all this damage. You're like, oh no! And everyone talks about this and says, like, oh, that's how bad she is. She's so willing. She's absolutely willing to just get fire and burnt to death. And she won't even disagree with him. You know what it comes off as? I seriously heard that. I'm like, man, that sounds so stupid. And I didn't even notice it when I was playing it. What it comes off as, holy crap, like, you're not thinking right now. What she sees is, she sees this giant monster getting ready to eat her face. So what does she do? Get out of the way. She's running and jumping up this small chasm, trying not to be murdered by both lava and the monster. So, and then I'm like, and then all of a sudden she's like, basically it doesn't seem like it almost seems like as if she forgets about the armor. It seems like everyone forgets about the armor at the time. It's more like, hey, I've got adrenaline rushing through my blood. I don't have a whole lot of time to be thinking and doing. So I see the stuff coming. I see that my death is approaching. Yes, the fire may hurt a little bit, but guess what hurts a little bit more? Death by lava. So you run up the chasm. When you get up to the top of the chasm, you start fighting the boss. The general comes on, or whatever he is, and he says, use your virus armor. So and then, again, if you actually played the game, the context establishes a lot. If you listen to stupid people on the internet, it does not establish, they don't put that context in it because they're angry for some stupid reason. They're angry for some irrational reason. Adding the context takes away from the rationality of it. When you listen to someone just talk about it, yes, it makes sense. She's just running around getting burnt to death, and she won't do it she won't change it until she puts on the virus suit. Of course, I think there might be an area or two before that where she still gets hurt from it, but it's short, and again, it's a stupid gimmick. It has nothing to do with characterization, really. But during this sequence, which everyone talks about, it's the fact that she's running like she's not. It's almost as if she forgets about the armor in the middle of trying not to be burnt to death by the lava, because even with the virus suit, you step on the lava, it still hurts because it's lava. And so you have all the lava happening, and then when she finally gets to that, the general's not going, now you can use your suit. It's almost as if you take it in the proper context of things, he's like, stupid, put your armor on before you burn to death. Of course, he doesn't actually say it like that, but that's kind of how it comes off. It doesn't come off as, hey, now you can use the armor now that I told you, haha, I control you, ha 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 ha, you're subservient to me. It's almost as if Samus just did not remember, and he's like, come on, dummy, put your armor on. And it's kind of logical. Again, context added to it, you add the logic to it. She's sitting there, and she's sitting there burning to death, and and she's not worried about the actual heat killing her. She's worried about the lava and the monster killing her. See? It works. It doesn't, it's not offensive. It's something that's completely plausible. Normal human beings would kind of do this too. Of course, some people might have actually thought to themselves, hey, I better put my virus suit while running up here. But at the same time, that's not everyone. And even then, she's kind of fast. She can get up there pretty quick. Yeah, it's almost seriously, if you don't listen to people If you don't listen to people, like, see, even I listen to the people, but, like, when I play, like, again, when I play a video game, I don't take other people's opinions with me. I don't even take my own opinion with me. I take my own self with me. The only time I take my own opinion into a game is when I've already played and beaten it, or when I've already played it, at least. So, when you already have your own opinion about the game, then the new thing is to challenge your old opinion based on what you're playing right now. But they don't. I heard them talking about how it seems, and like I said, when you play through it yourself and you get the natural context of it, it seems more of the fact that she just forgot that she had the power while she was trying to outrun her own death. When she outrun her own death, the guy was finally like, "Hey, dummy, what are you doing?" Because remember, at this point, I think at this point he still has a couple people alive. There's still a couple people alive. Or at least all of his men are alive still, and he's watching everyone. He's not just watching Samus, he's watching everyone. So he's all like, "Hey Samus, quit being a retard, put your Vara suit on." You put your Vara suit on. Again, it's not about, hey, you gotta be deserving. It literally seems like it, and this is the kind of thing that makes me so angry. And I said it like 14 times already, but I have to say it 14 times more. This is something that you should have came up to by yourself. This is not something. I'm not asking you to subvert all of your expectations. I'm asking you to rationally see something that's happening with the context involved. But people don't do that. Like I said, people generally don't play. Very few people have played Metroid Prime. I mean, Metroid Other M. Very few people have played Metroid Other M. Very few people have played Duke Nukem Forever. Very, very few people have played Resident Evil 6. And very few people have played any of the games that I've been talking about. Again, like I said, I've said this a lot of times. If you go into a video game with a bigoted opinion, and you come out of that video game with a bigoted opinion, then you have not played that game. Just because you put your hand, even if you put your hands on it and you've actually played it, when you go in and come out with the same opinion, you might as well not have played that game, because nothing changed. That's why you can't go in with a bigoted opinion, no matter what anyone says. You got to come in, this is what people have said. That's literally what you have to go to. If you're going to bring context into it before you start playing the game, you have to come into with, this is what people said. Not, this is what I believe. And that's the thing is, people have, the reason why they watch Yahtzee, the reason why they watch Angry Joe, the reason why I watch all these things, outside of the fact that they might find them funny, outside of the fact that they might find them funny, outside of the fact that this and that, or they might find them entertaining, is the fact that they find it that they seem to have certain, like, belief systems that aren't like that belief system, but they believe the same, they think the same, they react the same in certain ways. So basically, they get an idea from one of these guys, and they take that opinion and as their own and go into the game with it. Then they come out of the game with that same opinion, and that's what is wrong. Like, even if you had not heard that review, and you would have walked in with if you walked in with no opinion, came out with that exact same opinion, by taking the opinion and going into the game with it, and coming out with that same opinion, even if that opinion would have been the actual live opinion, real opinion, you would have came to with your own conclusion, you have still not played that game. And that's where it comes down to. You need to play the game for yourself. Like I said, nobody's played Resident Evil 6. Nobody's played Duke Nukem Forever. Nobody's played Metroid Other M. Can't go in with opinions and come out with the same opinions, my friend. And then here's the thing. Yahtzee also brought this up, and it was kind of funny. And this is the reason I've come to the conclusion that Yahtzee, though I love the guy, if he isn't stupid, he doesn't know anything about narratives. Oh, he doesn't know anything about narratives. I think that's a really fair statement there. Because a lot of times he's talking about something being convoluted, like a narrative being convoluted. Like, if you haven't played Alpha Protocol, you should. It's a pretty good game. But he talked about the narrative being convoluted and being crazy and stuff like that. And I found it to be simplistic. And like I said, I've said this a bunch of times, I don't believe myself to be the smartest person. I don't believe myself to be all that, like, aggressively intelligent. I believe I am smart, but not that smart. And I found it to be simplistic. I thought it was a very, very easy to follow video game. Especially if you're read up on stuff. If you read all the emails and stuff, it makes a lot of sense. Very, 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 very easy to follow. And he says that a bunch of times. He says that a bunch of times about a bunch of different things. So basically, he comes to this, and I quit moving around. He comes to this game, and he talks about, because there's basically a murder mystery subplot where I think there's like six or seven soldiers in the unit. 6 or 7 soldiers in the unit. One of them's bad. He's working for some company or something like that, and he's picking off the other soldiers, and he even tries to kill you at one point. And he basically says there's no conclusion to that arc. There's no conclusion to that murder mystery aspect of it. Here's what happens. Other than the black guy getting knocked off by Ridley into the lava, supposedly, he survives at the end, but, we don't know that. Other than the black guy getting killed, other than the black guy getting knocked off into lava by Ridley, we physically see every single one of the members die. Like, at one point, it'll cut over to one of the other members killing the other one of the members. One of them times it gets pushed into lava. All this stuff, all of them are dead. Which leaves us with, essentially, by the end of the game, 3 people. I mean, not counting, again, the black guy, I can't remember his name, but not counting the black guy because he lives, pushed in the lava by Ridley. So, you're left with, technically, 3 people, not counting the 4 people counting the black guy, 3 people not counting the black guy. You have Samus, you have the leader, and you have the killer. What happens is, the leader sacrifices himself because he goes into this containment area with, like, the perfect Metroids that can't be killed. Like, the perfect killing weapons. Metroids that can't be killed, essentially. He self-sacrifices himself, he goes into there, like, flips, like, some kind of switch or something like that, detaches it and blows it up. Somehow killing the Metroids that can't be killed, but whatever. Not thinking about it too hard. So, bam, now we're down to the 2. We're down to Samus, and we're down to the killer. Well, what happens is the killer gets killed by, like, a Metroid thing. Like, the killer, I don't know what happens to... I can't remember exactly what happens to him. But we see the last guy... Like I said, we know it's down to 3 people. Samus, the leader, and the killer. We see the leader die. Well, at least we know the leader dies because of the explosion. Maybe he lives. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe the leader dies. I mean, we see the leader explode, at least. So we know that the only ones left are Samus and the killer. Those are the only 2 people left. We witness the killer die. He is killed by, like, the weird girl that, like, is, like... There's a scientist there, and there's a monster that looks like... I don't know. There's just another monster there that's like a Metroid thing. We see that monster kill the last member of the unit, which has to be the killer of the other units. Now, if we want to evaluate that, if you want to think about that, that is literally the ending point of the murder mystery sub-arc. So Yahtzee not picking up on this is frankly stupid and retarded of him, because how can there be a murder mystery anymore when everyone involved in the murder mystery is dead? I don't grasp how can you even say these kinds of things? They're dead. They're all dead. And it can't be the black guy because we've seen the guy's face and he's white. So even when the black guy still survives, we know that in fact that the killer was killed. Yeah. So frankly, it's a really, really good game, but it does have its problems. Again, we're going to be bringing these things up. One of the biggest problems it has is the fact that it's the narrative, of course, because again we're talking about it, and it's not the characterization. I don't think the characterization is that bad. It definitely could have been better, but it could have been better doesn't mean bad, and better does not mean good. Whatever, blah blah blah. But it could have been better, but it's not that bad. It really wasn't that bad. But the point of the narrative being bad, the reason the narrative, you can arguably claim that it is bad, and it's not even that bad, but the fact is, what happens is, the story is a good idea with some failed the story's a good idea with some bad, what is that called? Dang, I can't even remember the words anymore. Poor execution, that's what it is. The story's actually pretty good with some poor execution to it. It could have been done a lot better, but at the same time, it wasn't done that horribly either. It was execution pretty mediocre, story idea pretty good. Makes sense. It's a very logical story. So there's a nice argument to it. A lot of the controls from the first persons are awful. Horribly, horribly awful. I'm not even kidding you. I almost died at the very end of the game. Because the missile controls, like the very end of the game is well, I guess technically not the very end of the game, but at the end of the story of the game, there's a point where you're trying to protect the scientist or something like that. You're trying to protect the scientist, and you got all these weird bugs and stuff that are trying to kill both you and the scientist. So you're holding on to her, and you go into first person mode, and you're just shooting. This happens a couple times. It's a weird gimmick that happens. Like when you fight Ridley as the bigger dog monster thing, you have to do it too, and that was hard as well. But this time you've got to fight the bugs, and so you hold on to her, and you're kind of shooting your missiles out at the bugs, and that took forever because I couldn't hit it very often, and I'm not sure if that was because I wasn't too used to my new setup to the Wii Motion Plus, like not the Wii Motion, but the sensor bar. That's what it is. I wasn't too used to the sensor bar, so maybe the sensor bar was put in the wrong place. But I kind of doubt it though, because it was on a newer TV, so I wasn't at that point. I had just gotten my widescreen TV or my new TV. Now, and it was bigger. It was a lot bigger. So maybe I put it in the wrong spot. Who knows? It could have been that. It could have been anything else. So it definitely could have been me putting that in the wrong spot. But I think it would have been bad either way. I think it would have been kind of bad either way because it didn't function all that well. Well, the TV was kind of bigger too. I don't know. Didn't matter. So that took a long time, and it almost ruined the game for me. It really did. It was really, really bad. The first-person stuff is horrible in this game. And it really needed to be tweaked. It really needed to be fixed. And I guess there are a couple of things in there. Enemy variety is a little bit more limited than other games, but not by that much. Weapon variety is a little slim, but it works. Level design could have been better, but we're really, really going to nitpicky stuff here. I don't understand why the hate comes from, because again, if you play it, and if you play it without a bias, and you play it without bringing in arguments to things that don't exist yet, you will have a fun time. Do you like other Metroid games? It's good. It's not the worst Metroid game in the list. It's by far not the best one either. I was, for a joke, going to put it in my top 100 video games of all time list. I was going to put it in the joke, just like I will, like, when I do my videos, at the very end of every video, I'm going to talk about the games coming up in the next video, because I think I'm going to break it up into 10 games per video, so that way it's not like a 4-hour long video. But I'm going to break it up into 10 games, and like there's going to be a short excerpt, so, like, talking about what's going to be on the next video, and I'm always going to talk about joke stuff. That's what I'm always going to talk about. And so, this was definitely going to be one of those things, but I really wanted to put it in the number one as an insult. Because people hated this game for no reason. They really, really did. Like, if you don't like the game, that's fine, but you've got to have a reason. You have to have before you go crazy and talk about betrayal, you have to have an actual reason, an actual rational excuse to not like the game. That didn't happen. That did not happen. So, yeah, I don't know. Pick this game up, man. It's worth it. It really is worth it. I'm gonna go get me a copy. I need to get me a copy of it whenever I hit it big. That's my problem. I love Dark Souls, and I haven't even got Dark Souls 2 yet, which is kind of sad. That's because shortly after Dark Souls 2 came out, the Steam Summer Sale happened. Guess what I did? I spent a lot of money. Got a lot of games for it. The depressing and sad thing about all that is that because I got the new game, and because I bought all that stuff, I couldn't get Dark Souls because, you know, I've got a limited budget to work with, and I probably should have gotten Dark Souls, but I got a bunch of games that I think I liked. A bunch of games that were terrible, too. Oh, man. But no, pick this game up. This game is definitely worth buying. At the very least, rent it, man. If you've already played it, I suggest you buy it again. Like, if you've already played it and you returned it and you're all like, "Brr, this is a dumb game, I hate it," I suggest you play it again, and this time without the bias, because you'll find something awesome. You'll find something great in it. Oh, I know I did. I love the crap out of this game. I do love the Metroid games, but I don't think that affected it at all. I mean, basically, and the fact that what I'm trying to say is that it's the same great quality of Metroid. Like I said, it's no Super Metroid or Metroid Prime. It's definitely not that. But it is kind of like a slightly worse combination of those two. Which, if I have to compare that to the new Call of Duty games, if I had to compare that to the new horribly watered down and muddy games that have been coming out in the last 5-6 years, I would have to say that is a pretty good thing. This is the reason why I wish I had more viewers. I definitely wish this was something like where I got paid to do this, because I would express these opinions all the time. I would fight for this stuff all the time, because it is insane that these games that get unimaginable amounts of hate for no reason at all, and then people keep doing it. That's the thing I don't grasp at all. And we're going to talk about it in the next episode, or in the next video. We're going to talk about it in the next video about Resident Evil 6. That game was awesome. That game was all of the fun. All of the fun. The fact that people don't like that game is literally retarded. We're going to talk about that next time. Thank you for listening. Wow, this one was really long. Hope you found something enlightening. Hopefully, we can discuss about this. If not, we can just let it go. You can yell at me if you want, but I hope that you kind of understand that I do come from a far, far more logical place than almost everyone I've ever had a conversation about this with. And trust me, that would be a lot of people. Take care.